Today's episode is sponsored by Privacy.com. Privacy.com lets you make online purchases using virtual credit cards, which helps keep your real identity and bank info safe. Hey, I like good boss fights, and I like, talking about bad boss fights. I've got a few more to talk about, good and bad, that I think are great examples of the design challenges that go into making interesting and memorable boss fights. Like last time, this won't be a ranking of the best bosses or anything. This is just a broad look at a few ways developers approach the infinitely open-ended challenge of boss design. Okay, let's go. Oh, and you'd better believe we're driving into Spoiler Town. When you're designing a boss, you can get caught up in thinking about the boss's difficulty and length. But if you're just thinking, is this boss too easy or too hard? Too long or too short? You're going to overlook something. The most important thing a boss battle needs is engagement. Easy bosses can be fun too, if they draw you in with a fun scenario, or they can be a pointless roadblock. Difficult bosses can leave you fighting desperately to survive, or be a frustrating mess. Short bosses can be do-or-die tests of skill, or disappointingly brief. Long bosses can be unforgettable tests of endurance, or painful slogs. The deciding factor is engagement, and you can find some very engaging bosses in A Hat in Time. A Hat in Time is a delight from start to finish. It's full of memorable levels, humor, and characters. It controls like a dream, is super well paced, and, oh hey, guess what? It's got some killer boss fights. The Mafia Leader, the Snatcher, Mustache Girl, that haunted outhouse. There aren't that many bosses, but each of them is a great test of reflexes that acts as a high point in their respective chapters, just as all great bosses should be. But out of all of Hat in Time's bosses, I especially love the Conductor. No wait, DJ Grooves. Hat in Time's second chapter takes place in a movie studio. You meet two directors, DJ Grooves, a funky fresh Emperor Penguin, and the Conductor, who's very Scottish and is an owl? Maybe? I'm going with owl. The two are bitter rivals competing in a film festival, and they're using timepieces, the game's MacGuffin, as movie props. You need the timepieces yourself, so you sneak in and get hired by both directors. You then star in each of the birds' movies, solving a train murder, becoming a diva on the moon, platforming across a chaotic train to defuse a time bomb, and marching around in the world's deadliest parade. You rack up points for each director's movies, and then when you feel you've delivered an award-worthy performance, you can start the finale. Whichever director has the most points when you start the finale is declared the winner of the film festival. Then the chapter just kinda ends. You're given another timepiece and you're brought back to the main hub. Kind of an anticlimax. Or is it? Someone suddenly calls you. The festival was rigged. The winner is hiding something from you. You head back into the movie studio at night, and after some solid platforming, you find that the winner betrayed you and is hiding another timepiece. Time to fight. The battle goes through tons of different attack phases, with callbacks to every movie you just performed in. They'll drop stage lights, come at you with a body slam, drop the disco ball from the parade level. They'll cut the lights and charge at you with a knife from the murder mystery level. The cars from the diva stage will run you over. The photographs will multiply all of the attacks as the phases go on, keeping the difficulty of the fight increasing throughout. But suddenly, someone cuts the lights. A piano starts to play, and the directors will try to have a nice heart-to-heart chat with you, just negotiating, bringing the action to a halt, right in the middle of the fight. Of course, the negotiations fail and the second half begins. The director straps the train time bomb on you and everything gets faster and more intense as the timer ticks down. Keep chipping away, and then the losing director will come to your aid. He defuses the bomb with big scissors and we start the final phase. Now cue the marching band. And they got knives! By now the screen is so full of stuff it gets extremely frenetic and tense until you finally finish off the boss. It's an amazing fight for its theming and pacing. All of the different attack elements make the boss a real climactic moment that ties the whole chapter together. Each phase shift feels like a natural escalation of tension. Each new ridiculous attack and the ever-increasing demands the overlapping attacks put on your platforming skill brings you deeper into the drama of the fight. And that heart-to-heart in the middle of it all to subvert expectations, develop the boss's character a little more, and give a much-needed breather in the middle of the chaos is just perfect. In a game full of memorable ones, the Battle of the Birds theming and pacing cap off a fantastic chapter. Okay, now we need a game with some bosses with bad engagement. Oh, I know. Would you be shocked if I told you that Sonic 06 has one? Iblis from Sonic 06 is not engaging. My god, it is not engaging. You start the fight on rows of stalactites above a pool of lava. At the center of the arena are 3 elevated platforms, each with a glowing purple rock. You hit the rock to bait Iblis in. He drops more stalactites so you can reach the rocks, because why wouldn't he? Hit the rock, Iblis will dive for it, and you hit him in the eye. That's it. Rinse and repeat. Come on. Repeat. Okay, here comes the ground it. Ugh. Thank you. Like a lot of other platformer bosses, this is one where you have to wait for a boss to become vulnerable to attack. What you do in between these vulnerable moments is key to whether the fight is engaging or not. Usually the player is given, something to do. A variety of attack patterns, something to keep you on your toes while you wait for your moment to strike. The boss fights in a hat in time will introduce an attack, then ramp it up as the fight goes on. You're always dealing with not only new attacks, but old attacks with some extra oomph added in. The Iblis fight doesn't do that. His few attacks don't get any faster, become more complex, or even more frequent. There's a desperation attack at the very end, but that's the only change. Every phase is the same, maybe with some minor platform changes. That doesn't make the player make a choice or think through a new strategy or change their approach. It's just an incredibly static fight. But you know what? That's not even a deal breaker for a good boss. Mario bosses often take a very similar structure, with waves of attacks and vulnerability. Those bosses aren't always super exciting, but they're not nearly this bad. The difference is in the pacing. The Iblis fight is glacial. This entire fight is actually shorter than the hand time fight, but it feels 3 times longer in practice because there's so little for the player to do. You're still waiting for the boss to do something most of the time, and nothing he does makes the fight more challenging or engaging. His attacks are slow enough to be inconsequential. If you do take a hit, you can just regain your lost rings very easily. The only real risk for dying is stepping into the lava, but that's more of an issue with the game's camera. The camera is a better boss than Iblis. You have no micro goals, there's nothing to learn, barely anything to avoid, so the battle slowly ticks away. Slowly. The fight against Iblis is a low point in a game full of low points, but at least it's a great example of what it can look like when a boss completely fails to give players engaging goals. Boss battles in turn-based JRPGs are strategic affairs. Yes, the best ones are part fashion show, part set piece, part symphony, and part narrative climax, but at their heart, the best boss fights are great fights. A puzzling battle of endurance to exercise your strategic muscles while you take in a monologue, an aria, and a runway walk all at the same time. Good late-game bosses in JRPGs challenge your preparation and tactical skills. Players usually develop a certain cadence to their attacks when getting through encounters. They create cycles, built from a well-oiled machine made to deal damage, buff, and heal. One way to design a great JRPG boss is to throw wrenches into those strategic cycles. Leave the player scrambling to put the pieces of their machine back together while they're getting punched in the face by a dad whale or an evil pope or whatever. Some of my favorites come out of Final Fantasy X. The boss battles in FF10 are pretty well varied. Most of them have little gimmicks to surprise you, and they mix well with the game's turn and party member swapping systems. Some bosses have multiple body parts with different functions. Some bosses play with airship positioning, where your location and the attack types of your party are factors. But one of the most challenging fights is with Lady Unalesca. Lady Yunalesca is divided into 3 different phases, each with their own separate HP pool. The first phase is straightforward. She alternates between physical attacks that remove buffs and an absorb attack that takes half of your character's HP. The second phase is trickier. She starts attacking with Hellbiter, which inflicts the zombie status effect on whoever it hits. Zombie characters can't heal. Any healing item or spell will do damage instead. After Hellbiter, she casts a heal spell on a random target. If it hits a zombie character, the heal does a pretty serious amount of damage. You can use Holy Water to remove zombie, but hold up a sec. The third phase is coming. Yunalesca melts down in the way all evil Final Fantasy bosses can and turns into this Medusa head. Ooh. She gets 2 new big moves too. Mind Blast can hit everyone and inflict confuse. The other is Mega Death, which just one hit kills everyone. Unless they're a zombie. She casts it instantly when the third phase begins, which will very likely blindside players on their first run. It's a little cheap, but once you understand how it works, you can see a balancing act unfold in front of you. Now you have a reason to keep a crippling status ailment. You need at least 1 zombie at the end of phase 2, but you can't heal zombies. Reviving a zombie who died will also remove zombie, so you need to goad out Hellbiter in phase 2 on as many party members as you can while still keeping their HP high enough so they won't die to a standard attack. And she keeps casting Megadeth occasionally in phase 3, so you need to keep at least 1 zombie around to the end of the fight. It's not just a simple cycle of attack and full party healing. You have to be deliberate with your heals and take calculated risks. Yunalesca is not only a good mechanical challenge, but her fight is the turning point of the whole story, so you get a double dose of engagement. Pride in beating a tricky tough boss, and the satisfaction that comes with the game's turn into its final act. Yunalesca is challenging but fair, tricky but unique. Above all, she's an encounter exquisitely designed. A great boss fight knows how to not outstay its welcome. Once a player figures out the patterns and can properly execute a counterattack, the best boss fights do one of 2 things: add additional hooks, or end. If it doesn't do either, if it keeps going well past the point where anything new happens, it can turn an interesting encounter into a damage sponge. Most damage sponges aren't very compelling fights. It's tough to get a lot of interesting hooks into a JRPG boss, which is why JRPG bosses are so prone to becoming damage sponges. The hook in the Yunalesca fight is survive when the normal means of survival don't function properly. But once you've found a way to dodge the wrenches she's thrown at you and are doing good damage to the boss, the fight ends a few minutes later. Now, Final Fantasy XII, that one's different. We have to talk about Yasmat, the optional final super boss. Yunalesca's fight is over in maybe 5 minutes once you have it figured out. Once you've figured out how to deal with Yasmat, his fight is over in maybe 5 hours. And it's all thanks to this little bar right here. Yes, it's a special case and not nearly as much of a problem since it's completely optional, but come on. That's 50 million HP. The fast forward option in FF12's updated release, the Zodiac Age, is worth adding for the fight with Yasmat alone. But at least Yasmat is interesting because of how audacious it is. Go big or go home, I guess. The Destroyer and the Rack Hive in Borderlands don't even have that going for them. They're gigantic stationary targets. No more complicated to fight than take out your best weapon and open fire. Maybe strafe around a little to avoid some basic attacks. They're more of a measuring stick for your character's build than they are an actual fight. What can make a damage sponge boss even worse is having very short windows where you can attack them, such as in the Corn boss in Castle Crashers. The gimmick with this guy is that he constantly pops up from the ground randomly across the arena, and as its health depletes, your opportunities to attack him will get shorter and shorter, until you're barely getting any hits on him before he pops back down underground. It drags the fight out, and makes for an annoying and uninteresting boss. So yeah, bosses are tricky things to design, and the design process is full of ways to make something not worth playing. Let us know in the comments some of your favorite and least favorite boss fights, which we might talk about on the next edition. No matter the length or difficulty, Boss fight designers can make their job easier by focusing on engagement. Get that right, and you've got a great boss fight. All these bosses bow down before the toughest boss of them all, identity theft. Privacy.com can help keep that from happening when you shop online. They let you pay and transfer money online with a virtual credit card number that you can lock onto one merchant. If a hacker tried to use that number at another store, you'd get an instant notification and can cancel the card immediately. And there's a browser extension that makes it super easy to use. Head to privacy.com/designdoc and sign up for an account. As a special offer for DesignDoc viewers, new customers will automatically get $5 to spend on their first purchase, for a limited time only. Yep, that's free money. Go to privacy.com/designdoc and sign up now.